Hey, this is Lorena and I wanted to do a custom quilting video for you. This is a video on how I finish the quilt off and also to share some of the problems that I had on one of the borders because I'm learning, so yay. Let's do this. Alright, one of the things about custom quilting is you're highlighting the piecer's work, and so I was going to go ahead and make my own designs to highlight my client's work, but I decided to buy a quilting pattern to save myself some time. I had already invested about 3 or 4 hours already, and I wanted to get done quicker, so I bought a design on Urban Elements. I think I'll put the name of the design here somewhere and also share some things I learned about picking designs. If you have smaller pieces, I recommend you get a less busy design than I did, because in such a small area the design was so busy that you couldn't really see the beauty of the design. So if you're gonna have some really pretty designs that you're gonna put in certain sections, make sure it's cleaner, meaning having less quilting, less foo-foo-y stuff around it. I ended up getting a half square triangle design that I decided to put around the star. Yes, around the stars. And I ended up finding out that it was so much information in that small area you really couldn't notice the design. I also went ahead and I put the design on a white thread. I think it's just a basic white cotton quilting thread, and you just can't see it. So in the video I'm sharing with you an area where I quilted it, and you can't see it until you turn the lights off and you can see the shadowing. I kind of by faith decided to keep on putting the design down even though I wasn't sure about it because there was so much quilting. And then, you know, I just kind of said just go for it. And I also decided to put a different design. It was like a square design, square feathery design. I'll post a picture of it here in the center of the stars. Now initially I just kind of put all these designs where I wanted to put them, and then down the line I realized that it kind of looked weird. So in some of the designs I realized that the edges were still lofting a bit and the fabric wasn't being tacked down. So I went ahead and went back in every area that I had the machine quilted and meandered or stippled around the edges of it to kind of tack that fabric completely down. So the areas I wanted to lofted up, and the areas I didn't want to loft up did not loft up. So that's what I did. I went ahead and I put the designs initially all over the stars, the center star, and inside the stars. On the inside, I did use a different design, which was a circular, kind of like a wreath kind of design, and I used all my half square triangles, and then I filled in that space on the edges with meandering. Basically that's all I did. On the linear lines, more of the diamond lines that this quilt had, I wanted to go ahead and do a different design. Now this design, I don't know, I just called it wiggles. You kind of just wiggle in one direction, go back and forth, and maybe after the 3rd or 4th time you change your directions and then kind of fill in that space. So it's not even anything specific, but it created this very movement texture, very fluid texture, that it just looked beautiful on the linear areas of the quilt, meaning the areas that had straight lines, like the diamond areas. All right, let's talk about the borders. You know how in the last video I said do not stitch the vertical lines, then roll the quilt and stitch vertical lines. Well, on my horizontal lines, because it's horizontal, it's a straight line, and it's easy to keep track of the horizontalness of it. Is that a word? I didn't have no problems on the top and bottom. Let me also share, on the corner I went ahead and posted or quilted that triangle feather that I did in the other star areas, on the corner areas, and I also did kind of like a border feather. But on the border feather, I went ahead and I used one in one direction and I flipped it all the way across the top border. After I did that, I went ahead and went back and took the machine off the belts, and I meandered all the way across the top of it and all the way across the bottom of it. I went ahead and rolled the quilt and did that on the bottom row, exactly the same. Didn't really change nothing up. Maintained the same pattern, maintained the same design process, and finished the bottom. Now, this is where it gets kind of sticky. I went ahead and took off the quilt off the machine, took the leaders off, and went ahead and re-sewed the leaders. So I rotated, I believe, the quilt 90 degrees so that I can have those vertical lines now become horizontal lines. Now in this video, you're going to see where I went ahead and I put the quilt on the long arm, and you can see the fabric kind of puffing up and filling up. Now, yeah, it was now. When I went ahead and laid it completely down and I saw the horizontal line, you can literally see, if you see on the camera, how in some areas I pulled the fabric too much, so I had like a mound, and some areas where I pulled the fabric not enough, where I have a hill. And yes, I did do all the lines, all the half square triangles, and I did all the stitching in the ditch. So to fix it, which I got frustrated and didn't film completely, I went ahead and removed all the stitches, unstitched it all, and went back and tried to straighten it as much as I possibly can, and then stitched in the ditch those half square triangles, and re-stitched in the ditch the horizontal line. Before it was vertical. Remember, now, because I put the leaders on it and switched it, now it's my horizontal line. I really do recommend that when you're custom quilting a quilt, that you only do horizontal lines, take it off, flip the quilt, rework the quilt on the horizontal. I did it on the vertical, and you could see that as I rotated the quilt or moved the quilt going upwards, that what I thought was straight was really not straight, and what I thought was stitched down well, you could see that there was a lot of warping. Yeah, and that was not fun. I didn't film myself unstitching the border on the pink on the top and unstitching the line where the half square triangles, and I also unstitched almost half of those half square triangles so that I could create a clean straight line. Yeah. I learned something the hard way, but I learned it. So I went back and I stitched in the ditch all those half square triangles, re-stitched in the ditch those horizontal lines so I could make them as straight as I possibly can. And then I went back and started quilting all the beautiful border feathers all the way across, and went ahead and filled it in with meandering. Now after I did that, I went ahead and rolled the quilt again so I could see the other vertical line, and thank God that that one was not as bad, but I did still have to fix it like I did the top section that I shared with you earlier. So yeah, horrible. One of the things about quilting and custom quilting, sometimes I wrestle with myself because I don't want to do them. And the reason that I don't want to do them is because there's so much work. What are the benefits to custom quilting? Well, you're highlighting the piecer's work. And you're highlighting it in such a way that a panto can't do it. A panto is just kind of fluffs all the way across it. Doesn't highlight any of the piecing, and so you kind of can lose the beauty of the piecing in doing a panto. And this thing looked like a gem. I'm going to go ahead and post some beautiful pictures that I took in different areas. This quilt lofted, it was full. On the back, because she used such a busy pattern, you really can't see the design. So I really didn't show pictures on it, but I'll post one here on the back. But in different angles, this quilt, the piecing is highlighted, and that's what custom quilting is about, highlighting the piecer's work. Now if you don't want to highlight your piecing, then I recommend you just do pantos. But if you really spend a lot of time making sure that your piecing is, custom quilting will highlight the intricacy of a quilt, the beauty of the design that the quilter or the piecer decided to design, and yeah, it really highlights it. And yeah, it's a treat. It's a beautiful quilt. I really do thank you for watching, and God, I hope you love the eye candy. Yeah, I know there's a lot going on out there, and I hope this kind of just helps a little bit. Thank you for watching. Bye.